How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Patriot DIY channel. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to build your own folding pitcher's mound. Alright guys, now if you watched the channel before, you may have seen my batting cage build back here behind me. That was a huge project, but my son has gotten so much use out of it. If you're interested in building your own backyard batting cage, make sure you check out that video. I'll have a link to that right here at the top of the screen and in the description below. But today you are here to learn how to build a pitcher's mound. So my son is in his first fall season of kid pitch baseball, and he is going to be one of the pitchers on his team. So I wanted to make sure we had something here at home for him to practice on. So I decided to build our own pitcher's mound. Now, if you guys have any experience with youth baseball, especially if you've ever had to move those crazy heavy temporary pitcher's mounds around the infield, you know that those things are crazy heavy and impossible to move by yourself. So I wanted to build something that would fold up to a compact size and be easily transported by just one person. So I ended up going with this tri-fold design. It's got wheels on the back. Now, while it is still pretty heavy, it's much more manageable because of its smaller size, and the wheels allow you to easily roll this around from the parking lot to the baseball field, around your backyard, wherever you need to. Now I'm going to get in here and show you exactly how I built this, all the materials used and everything like that. But if you're interested in building one of these for yourself, I will have digital build plans linked in the description below, give you clear step-by-step instructions on how to build this with material lists, links to the different tools and everything you need. So make sure you check out that down in the description below. Now, before we get in here and start building, if you haven't done it yet, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, hit that notification bell, and give me a thumbs up. Now let's go build a pitcher's mound. All right, guys, first thing we're going to do is start breaking down our plywood with the track saw. This is a marine grade plywood, and our final size for the mound is 40 by 90. So I'm cutting these into 40-inch by 30-inch pieces. Then we're going to go over to the table saw and rip down 3 long 6-inch strips. This is what we're going to use for the sides and middle support of our pitcher's mound. Then I'm going to use the table saw to rip down our top panels, side panels, and all of our other components to their final size. Now I'm going to cut the slope into those side pieces to give us the proper 1 inch per 1 foot of drop that we need. I'm going to mark the 2 points here on the side panel and use my track saw to cut this taper into the side piece. Now at first I cut this all in one piece to make sure that each of our sections line up perfectly with that slope. But then I'm going to take it over to the miter saw and slice it up into our 30-inch sections. Now we have 3 of those tapered pieces, and one of those is going to be our middle support. And because that middle support is going to fit inside the frame of each of these sections, I'm going to need to trim off about 3/4 of an inch off each side. Now, instead of trying to measure each one of these perfectly, I'm just going to take a scrap piece of my plywood and put it here in front of my stop block to cut off the first side. Then I'll flip it, add another scrap piece to cut off the other side, and by doing this it should fit perfectly inside the frame of each of our boxes. This will make more sense to you in just a minute. Now I need to cut the front and back of each of our boxes, and I'm going to be using that same method. I want the final width of each box to be 40 inches. So instead of measuring and cutting them individually, I'm going to set my stop block to the 40 inches, then use 2 scraps as spacers to get these pieces cut to the perfect length. Next, I'm going to take all these components over to the Craig 720 Pro and start drilling some pocket holes. Now, these pocket holes are going to be used to attach the top panels to all of our boxes later. So these are going to end up being up facing, and I'm going to drill those into all of the components that make up the frame of each of these boxes. And while you're drilling the pocket holes into your side panels, you want to consider the orientation, because you're going to want all the pocket holes to be on the inside of the box and not visible from the outside. That means what you want is two sides that have pocket holes facing each other like you see here. Then I'm also going to drill pocket holes into the ends of each of our middle support pieces. With our pocket holes done, I also want to cut in some carry handles into the sides of our rear section. So I'm going to measure and mark out the location for that carry handle. Then I'm going to use an 1¼ Forstner bit to drill 2 holes about 5 inches apart. I go almost all the way through the panel, then flip it over and finish it off from the other side to make sure I don't get too much tear out. Then I draw a couple lines connecting these 2 holes, and I'm going to use my jigsaw to cut along those lines and create our carry handle. Then, to make this as comfortable as possible to carry, I'm going to use a 1/4 inch round over bit to round over the edges of these holes. Now, with all of our components prepped, I'm ready to start assembling each of our 3 sections. So I start by laying out the front and back pieces of the box on the workbench. Then I put my side panels in place, making sure they fall on the outside of these other 2 pieces. Now, to assemble these, I'm just going to apply some wood glue and clamp everything together. Then I'm going to tack these pieces together with some brad nails. I do the same thing for both sides, just tacking all these pieces together. Then I measure and mark the center point on this box and drop in our middle support piece. And you'll see, because of how we cut these earlier, it's going to fit perfectly inside the box. Then I'll fasten these in place using 1¼ inch exterior pocket hole screws. Now, to add some strength to the corners of each of these boxes, I'm going to cut some small sections of 2x2 to fit into the corners of each box. These are not only going to add a lot of strength to the assembly, but it's also going to help make sure each of our corners are nice and square. So I'm going to clamp that in place, then pre-drill and countersink the holes and fasten it with 2-inch wood screws going in both directions. I'm going to follow those same processes to assemble all 3 of the sections for our pitcher's mound. Now, there's one difference here on our front section. Because it tapers down to just 1 inch, instead of using the 2x2s as support in these front corners, I'm just going to cut a small 3x3 square of my plywood and attach it into those corners using pocket holes. Now, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill the holes where our wheels are going to be mounted later. So this is going to go in the top back corner of our rear section. I'm going to measure and mark out the location and drill this hole so it falls centered on that 2x2 support piece, so we have a nice strong place to mount those wheels. And with that, the assembly of our 3 sections is finished, and this is really starting to look like a pitcher's mound. All right, guys, now I'm doing all this for my son, so I just want to take a second to plug his YouTube channel. His channel is called JohnnyOutlaw. He does a lot of baseball and sports stuff, really cool videos. So if you and your kids are interested in that kind of stuff, make sure you go check out the JohnnyOutlaw YouTube channel. I will have a link to that in the description below. Now let's get back to the build. Now, because this is going to be outside, even though it's marine plywood, I still want to seal it. So my son and I are gonna put on a couple coats of exterior primer, and then to make sure this is sealed and as tough a finish as I can put on it, I'm gonna go with this Herculiner roll-on bed liner. I will have a link to that in the description below. I'm gonna start with the spray version to get down into these corners, and then I'll roll on the rest, applying at least 2 coats to all of the surfaces. And while that's drying, I'm ready to start cutting down my turf. Now the turf I'm using is a very high quality nylon turf from ATX Turf. It's the same type of turf that will be used on a real turf baseball field. I got this in the terracotta or clay color so it looks like a real pitcher's mound, and I will have a link to this from ATX Turf in the description below. Now if you're looking for a little more budget friendly options, you can also find a lot of different types of turf at your local Lowe's and Home Depot or on Amazon. Now to cut this, if you flip over to the bottom, you can see these lines of stitching. That's gonna give you a nice straight line all the way down the turf. So I'm just gonna be using some good heavy duty scissors. I'm gonna measure and mark and then cut along that stitch line all the way down. Making sure I cut this about 4 inches wider than I actually need, and then I'll trim it later. Now I'm gonna take one of my finished platform pieces and flip it over. Then to attach this turf, I'm gonna be using this outdoor carpet adhesive and a notched trowel. So I just put down a generous amount of this adhesive and start spreading it with the trowel until I have good coverage all the way across. Then I'm gonna take my turf and lay it in place and measure to make sure I have an even overhang all the way around. Once I've done that, I'm just gonna roll it with a rubber roller to make sure I have good contact all the way across. And then you're gonna wanna let this sit for about 24 hours to dry. Now the next day, once this is dry, I'm ready to start wrapping the edges, and I'm gonna be fastening this turf down with a narrow crown stapler and some 1/2-inch staples. So first I'm gonna tack it down all along that top edge, then use my razor knife to cut the corner so I can fold this down along the edges. And you can see I'm just using a set of pliers here to pull this nice and tight, and then I tack it in with a staple. I'm going about every 2 inches to start with here, just making sure I pull this nice and tight and tack it in place. You can see it does leave a little bit of a dent in the turf, but you can go back and fluff this up, and it's not really noticeable at all. Once I've got this tacked down, I'm gonna go back and trim off all of the excess, and then add a few more staples anywhere else I need them. Then I'm just gonna rotate the panel and follow that same process to wrap all 4 edges, leaving a little bit to fold over on the corners and give it a nice clean look. Once I've got all the turf mounted to our top panels, I'm gonna flip it over on the workbench and lay one of our frames on top. I make sure all my corners are perfectly aligned, and then fasten that box down to the top panel through those pocket holes that we drilled earlier. Now in addition to or in place of the pocket holes, you could also use L brackets here to attach these. But with that, we have a section of our pitcher's mound complete. Now while I have this up on the workbench, I'm also gonna go ahead and install our wheel. So I'm gonna throw a fender washer on our bolt, then the wheel, then another fender washer, and then I can tap this in through the hole. Then on the other side, I'm gonna secure it with a washer, a lock washer, and a nut. And you can see I've designed this so the wheel extends past the back corner. That way when I tip this up, it'll roll without the box dragging on the ground. With all of our sections complete, I'm ready to start working on the folding mechanism. So I'm gonna start by stacking our front and middle sections in the orientation that I want it to fold. Then I'll measure and mark the location of each of my hinges. Now to make sure I get the placement of each of these hinges perfectly, I've cut a small stop block, and I'm just gonna clamp that in place, and I'm gonna hold my hinge against that to make sure I get the alignment perfect. Then I'll fasten that hinge in place with the provided screws. These are good heavy duty hinges that worked out perfect for this application, and I will have links to those in the description below. You can see I'm going to follow that same process to add 2 hinges, attaching our front and middle sections. Then we just need to test it out, and it folds out perfectly. Now those hinges are slightly exposed from the top, but we've got these mounted out near the edges and set back so that they don't stick up enough to interfere with the picture. Now I'm going to set my back section in place, make sure I get it aligned, and I'm going to attach the hinges here the same way I did on the other side. Now the moment of truth, let's see how this works. And it folds out perfectly, has minimal gaps, and feels really nice and sturdy. All right guys, now with the main assembly of our pitcher's mound finished, we're ready to start adding our accessories like the pitching rubber. Now I'm going to be very careful to measure and make sure the placement of this is absolutely perfect. Then I'm just going to drill through those mounting holes on the side and attach it through that top platform with bolts, securing it from the underside. Then I'm going to add some latches to make sure this thing stays folded nice and tight while I'm transporting it around. These are some good heavy duty latches, and they are adjustable so you can dial in the exact tension that you need. First I attach one to secure the back 2 sections, and then another to secure the front and middle sections. And those are good to go. Now I'm also going to need a handle to pull this around with, and I think this one is perfect for this application. It's actually a lay flat handle, and I'll demonstrate that for you in just a second. But I just measure and mark and mount this centered on the back of our folded pitcher's mound. And as you can see, this thing pulls out when you're ready to use it and then pushes back nice and flat when you're done with it. And with that guys, your folding pitcher's mound is complete. As you can see, this thing is nice and easy to roll around. The folding mechanism functions flawlessly. And I gotta tell you, I think this thing looks awesome. And of course, when you're ready to transport it, it folds right back up nice and easy. All right guys, that is it for how to build your own folding pitcher's mound. This was a really fun project. This is going to be great for any of you guys that have kids that are into youth baseball and are interested in pitching. Like I said before, if you've ever had to move those temporary pitcher's mounds on and off a baseball field, you know just how heavy and how hard they are to move. I think this is a great solution for that. While it is still pretty heavy, it folds up into a nice compact size. The wheels make it super easy to move around, and it can definitely be handled by just one person. Now, this one was built to youth baseball specifications as far as the height of the mound, but this can easily be adapted for older kids. You could very easily make you a 1 or 2 inch riser to fit underneath the edges that would raise this up to the perfect height for what you need. Now, if you're interested in building one of these for yourself, guys, don't forget I will have build plans linked in the description below so you can build one of these for your young baseball player. Now, I know my son is super excited about this thing. He can't wait to get out here and start practicing on it. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I hope this video helped you out. Don't forget to check out those plans and links for all the tools used in this video. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe, and play ball.